Staying with the celebrations, the Vice President, Professor Yemi Osinbajo, has underscored the need for the nation to remain united if it must achieve any development. Professor Osinbajo was speaking at the 2017 Independence Day Interdenominational Service in Abuja, advising Nigerians to eschew violence and maintain harmony. Our correspondent, Gloria Omezoke, reports.
A large crowd singing in jubilation on this special occasion celebrating Nigeria's 57th independence anniversary. The Vice President, Professor Yemi Osinbajo, is joined by other former heads of state, service chiefs, members of cabinet, the leadership of the National Assembly, top government officials, as well as members of the diplomatic corps. The sermon focuses on godly leadership, but places greater emphasis on an appeal to all ethnic nationalities to cease all acts of violence.
In leadership, God pays greater attention to the needs and the aspiration of the ordinary people. For this reason, God holds all leaders accountable to the ordinary people. The prophets of the Old Testament have always called upon the leaders and the rulers of the people about their acts of injustices against the poor, the widows, the orphan, and these violate not only their persons, but also certain principles. I want to appeal to all Christians and Muslims and traditional rulers and leaders to go beyond attacking each and their ineffective dialoguing, to seriously engage and interact with each other so as to create a new national common ground, religious values that can guide a national, religious, ethnic of unity in diversity.
Former head of state, General Yakubu Gowon, is soon ushered up the podium alongside former President Olusegun Obasanjo and former interim President Ernest Shonekan.
All that I'm going to ask you is continue to pray for the peace and unity of Nigeria. This is one of your most important responsibilities. Do not fear. Nigeria has fought for its unity, and that unity will continue with your prayers and with your help. God bless you all.
The Vice President, Professor Yemi Osinbajo, said a prayer for the nation as he underpins the need to be united.
Our nation is at a point where Christians are called to stand up and do what it is that Scripture has commanded us to do. Our nation is at a point where we, Christians, have to rise up and teach our nation the virtues that Jesus Christ taught us. Loving our neighbors, praying for even our enemies, uniting the body and uniting all at the same time.
Nigeria's 57th independence celebration is one that has served to re-echo peace as against conflict, as the odds remain huge.
In continuation of our review of the nation's 57th independence anniversary, tonight we look at the presidency. Since the return of democracy in 1999, the country has witnessed an uninterrupted civil rule, which means the civilian president has held sway as the country's helmsman for 18 years. This, however, has not been without some hiccups. Our State House correspondent now brings us up to date on some of the challenges the presidency has been through in recent times.
Flamboyance, that used to be the word associated with the celebration of Nigeria's Independence Day. Like other countries, Nigeria usually marks the day with great zeal and festive fervor, but the last few years has been different. Since the 2010 bombing in the nation's capital on the nation's 50th Independence Day, things took a different turn. One thing, however, remained constant. From Sir Tafawa Balewa to the military heads of state, and now the democratically elected presidents, they all had one thing in common: fixing the problems of Nigeria. 57 years after, the struggle clearly continues.
We should pray for our nation so that we'll see change. Because this change everywhere is dry. It's really affecting even with the seller, because we are not workers, we are not receiving salary. It's from the workers we eat. They say no salary.
Not like hardship in Nigeria is not created by any other sort. No angel is going to create hardship for us. It's we creating it.
Many describe the nation's socio-economic situation as a huge gap between the aspirations Nigerians had at independence and today's reality.
What has spoiled Nigeria and set us back completely and was not addressed by previous presidents, heads of states, is the issue of corruption. People were stealing money anyhow. People were enriching themselves anyhow. And nobody did anything about it. And we couldn't continue like that.
The anti-corruption drive of the administration of President Muhammadu Buhari may be one of the selling points. But be that as it may, there are still criticisms.
Government is not bothered by that. As long as we know that the war is being prosecuted, then that's all that matters. If some people don't see it, it's because they choose not to see it.
Unfazed with the negatives, the Vice President, Professor Yemi Osinbajo, stood in for the President while he was away on medical vacation for the better part of 2017. The federal government maintained a no-no position on agitations for the secession of the Southeast.
In the last government.
And this is amidst dialogues on calls for restructuring.
From where we are now, there are certain aspects of the government, certain institutions of government that we must devolve down to the local government level and to the states, as it is done in other countries. Maybe that will trigger off some competition in development.
In the times of economic hardship and uncertainty, such that drove the nation into a recession in 2016, the push to diversify through agriculture became more forceful.
We imported everything we could easily produce, and in the process transferred jobs and wealth to sustain other economies. That's the tragedy. And that's why the independence is not sweet. It's like, okay, we're independent, why are we in trouble? And nobody wants to look at where the disease began. Today, many banks won't even lend to agric. Bankers won't touch the agriculturists, which is our next surest way of earning forex, paying the debts we owe and creating the jobs we need at home.
Nigeria is a blessed nation. There may be problems here and there, but it is much more important, it is much more gracious for all of us to agree to stay together as a nation.
Nigeria may have spent billions of dollars over the years trying to resolve major infrastructural challenges like power, for instance, in vain, but clearly the present administration is looking to plug all those loopholes so that the nation would emerge stronger and Nigerians may finally begin to enjoy the gains of an independent Nigeria. Gloria Umezuki, Channels Television News.
Let's discuss this further. I'm being joined on the News at 10 by Ambassador Usman Saraki, who is Nigeria's former Deputy Permanent Representative to the United Nations. Ambassador, you're welcome to the News at 10.
Thank you very much. It's a pleasure to be with you here.
It is a pleasure having you on the News at 10. Happy Independence Day, Ambassador.
Thank you very much. Happy Independence Day.
What would you say have been the issues that have been the most challenging for this presidency?
Well, the most challenging issues for this presidency, obviously, have been spelled out by Mr. President himself when he came into office. These are first and foremost the insurgency in the northeast, particularly Boko Haram activity in Borno,
Yobe Adamawa axis. And then the issue of corruption, which has become endemic in the country. It has eaten into the body, into the fabric of the country. And thirdly, the challenging issue of actually, diversification of the economy. So those three aspects were the principal motive forces of Mr. President's presidency. And I think, so far, he has demonstrated the commitment, the energy, the resolve, and determination to tackle those issues which he identified earlier on coming to office. The issue of national unity is something that is actually philosophical. And I say so because it has been a continuous issue since independence and up till the present. And it will be debated ad infinitum. So challenges are actually not that things that emerge in terms of the progression of the nation, and you can grade them according to the priorities or the seriousness they pose to the government. But as Mr. President said, security, the economy, corruption have been the main challenges of the government.
I want to pick on something you said, Ambassador, that national unity is philosophical, but is it achievable?
Yes. It is achievable, particularly when we apply ourselves to it concertedly, honestly, pragmatically, and practically. National unity is something that we agree, actually, as citizens, coming together to resolve and certain differences and move ourselves forward. It is not something that can be imposed from outside, for instance, by force, but it should emerge by consensus in terms of agreement and agreeing that, where there are divergences and differences, those can be accommodated through the democratic process, through constitutional means, with due regard to law and order of the country. And you find that upon reflection, it's not such a too daunting challenge as some wish to pose it. Because if you look at it, again, philosophically, it is something that you can actually sit down to quantify in terms of what it is that is preventing us from coming together, solidifying, coalescing as a nation. Now, if you now look at those determining factors that make it a bit difficult for Nigerians to decide to go forward en masse together, you find that, those irritants, those difficulties could be perhaps structural in terms of some people agitating for certain offices in the land. It could be economical in terms of others feeling marginalized or left behind. Or it can actually be considered as some sort of being felt, by agitating and raising a hue that lets people feel my presence so that I will not be left behind or forgotten. So there are many ways in which we can actually address this issue of national unity. But the important thing is to do it constitutionally within the ambit of the law. And I think Mr. President was right today to refer to the existing structures of government, of state, that can ameliorate concerns, disagreements, and differences and diversions.
Ambassador, thank you so much for sharing your thoughts with us tonight. We appreciate your being here. Have a wonderful weekend and enjoy the rest of the holiday. The United States will rescue abducted. I'll take that break again where the news at 10 returns. Police in Kaduna State rescue abducted Assistant Commissioner of Police and others almost 1 week after their abduction. Do join us again.